Welcome back to the Up in the Blues Seats podcast. Happy 2024. This is the last day. At least I'm declaring it the last day. You can say Happy New Year to someone. So Happy New Year. Also, Happy Brennan Othmann Day. It's a big day here in the podcast, and we're going to get right into it right now. Obviously, got to welcome in the New York Post Rangers beat writer, Miss Mollie Walker. Always good to see you, as well as former Ranger great Brian Boyle. And no other people I'd rather spend Brennan Othmann Day with than these two folks. And we'll hop in. The news obviously came out yesterday. Brennan Othmann was being recalled for Tyler Pitlick, who had a lower body injury. And we're going to see him make his debut tonight. Obviously, one of the more highly touted Rangers prospects. And he's going to go up against another highly touted prospect player in the game right now, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's go off the top here. Mollie, your reaction to the Rangers recalling one of their most important young guns in their system right now?
I'd argue that he's probably the most important one that they've got in the system right now. But my first thought was Tyler Pitlick week to week. That means that this Othman call-up is probably not going to be a short stint, which is really interesting because I was kind of surprised to see it just because this is supposed to be Othman's first pro season and first season with the Wolfpack. Obviously, the Rangers have gotten a lot of flack for how they've handled prospects in the past and things like that. So I kind of always expected Othman to get a full season and or get a bit of the Cooley treatment that he got last year and get that 4-game cameo or just a bit of a sneak peek to see where he's at and how he could handle the NHL game. But I also think it's interesting because I feel like Edstrom did pretty well in the one game that he got and showed some promise. And I found it interesting that they turned to Othman. I know that it's the injuries are different, but you could always move Gaudreau to the wing and get Edstrom back in there for another game on the third line next to Cooley and Brodzinski, a bit of a Wolfpack line there, which I thought was pretty good in the one game that they had. So I just thought that they would have wanted another look at Edstrom and to just continue letting Othman marinate in the AHL, which, tends to be the safer route to go. But, who knows? I know that he's on a 9-game scoreless streak in the AHL too, which Larry pointed out in his article. So it is an interesting move, but I mean, I guess, they want to see what he can do now. So he's going to get his chance now.
Well, just his numbers with the Wolfpack so far: 28 games, 9 goals, 14 assists, 23 points. So, like you mentioned, or Larry mentioned as well, too, the 9-game scoreless streak, most of his stats came, I guess, from earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Brian, in terms of a young player like this, he's turning 21 tomorrow. So as Jake, our producer, mentioned earlier in the show, hopefully he scores a goal tonight and he can go out and celebrate with his first legal drink. Is there a lot of, I mean, there's always going to be pressure, I'm sure, but I mean, considering the way Rangers coming off of a rough game last a couple days ago against the Hurricanes, is there pressure on his end to kind of step in line and produce, or who's there to kind of like reel him back if that's the case?
It's it really depends on how he's used. It really depends on what Lavi's going to tell him. Look, there's pressure on everyone. There's pressure on every guy on the Wolfpack right now. They want to get out of there and get their call as well. So that's the mentality of a professional athlete, to be honest with you. You have to put that pressure on yourself from a young age and learn to live with it. So when the pressure comes, you've already demanded so much of yourself. So I think it's impressive that, he's over a point a game and then he goes on an absolute, cold streak, but he's over a point a game prior to that as a first-year pro in the American League. That's really hard to do. Scoring in the AHL is, believe it or not, can be really, really hard sometimes. I had a pretty successful first year. And then my second year when I was supposed to make it and stay up with the Kings, I was up and down a lot, played 40 games, only had 10 goals. It was like a grind to get any points, but I think my overall play was better, but that happens in the American League. So looking at his points, there's a reason they called him up. I wouldn't focus too much on that. But here's the thing, like his coach left midway through the season or early in the season to go coach Edmonton. It's his first year pro. His coach leaves. He's got a new coach. Different things happen. And now he's on this little bit of a cold streak. So like, why not bring him up if he's playing well enough and he's going to be a part of the future? It might be for a short term. It might be for a long term. You never really know. So just, if I'm a fan, I'm excited to see what he can do. And if he is amazing and has a great game, that's a lot of fun. That's cool. Edstrom kind of did the same. I thought he was excellent. And if he doesn't, it's like, well, he's not, he's just turned 21. It's his first year pro. That was his taste. He knows what to expect next time. I think it's all positives right now. And I think, Chris Drury's in charge. He has a plan. There's nothing panicked about this. He's just going to call up who he thinks is ready. And if he earns a call, that's the other thing. You want your prospects that in your mind you think have a chance to get called up to always get a taste so they don't get checked out. You'd think, okay, you shouldn't get checked out anyways, but you need to understand the psyche of everybody. And you throw them a carrot once in a while, even if it's for a short period of time, they go back down, they know what to expect next time. That's prospect development, in my opinion. So I like the move. I understand why it's not the same guy it was last time. You mix it up a little bit. You don't necessarily need, when everyone's healthy, you don't really necessarily need them. You prepare for an injury in the playoffs and these guys are ready. They've been here before. Sort of those are the different things I think about. So I'm not trying to speak for anybody, but that's why I like bringing up different guys, especially if they're not like fully cooked and ready to be a contributor, or if you're not sure if they're ready to be a contributor for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they've actually had, now that you mention it, and Larry and I have talked about this, they've called up a lot of different guys this season, even if they didn't even make it into a game, but they've kind of spread the wealth a little bit. They've kind of given every top guy and a lot of the guys that they brought in the off season too, just like a quick hot sec up in New York, one practice. And something almost tells me that Laviolette also kind of wants to take a peek
for sure
as well. That he just kind of strikes me as that kind of coach. Like, yeah, I'll just take a look at him. Just bring him up. I'll just take a gander.
Yeah, it's 2 hours away, or less
why
than
not?
that. We didn't forget about you type thing. Like, we're watching you.
Even Robertson, who, is, there's a genuine possibility that they don't bring him back if he doesn't, start, being a little bit more of a contributor down there and just in general to the organization. He even got, a practice day up. It's interesting. But what do you have to say, Brian?
Well, no, I'm just curious from
Andrew.
Brian's standpoint. Is there a specific line you'd like to see a young player like this play on? Obviously there's different talk in terms of where he can slide into just because of the injury aspects of things. But is this someone that you'd rather get him reps with some vets? Would you rather him take it easy on the bottom? Like, where do you see him sliding in possibly?
Well, I mean,
yeah,
I'd want to play with vets.
Yeah.
if and they'll take care of you. They'll talk to you each shift. You can talk to it, even if it's a vet. You can talk to him and understand he wants what's best for the line. He can't bench you. What he's telling you is trying to help him and you. But they might be a bit of, the bottom six might be in a bit of a blender. Like they want to change something. Last game didn't go so well. So we'll see. Hopefully, there's not a ton of penalties. You can get into a rhythm. It's really hard to not play a lot in the first period. And your brain can take over a little bit and psych you out if you're just sitting there worried about making a mistake and you only have 3 shifts. If you can get into the flow of the game, you might make some small mistakes. You might have moments where you could have done something better, but you're right back out the next shift. So, but I just think they have so many weapons that it will probably be spoon fed a little bit. It will be hopefully protected, not a ton of D zone starts, but who knows? Maybe they want to see what he can do on that end of the rink because they have so much firepower in the top 6.
Yeah.
Baptism by fire sounds like almost like.
Well, show me what you got. Let's go.
Yeah.
Torts would do that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you get called up sometimes. I mean, we called up Hagelin and Mitchell the same day, and it was me and them two because I was playing like trash. And Torts like, here, you guys figure it out. And we ended up figuring it out. It was a fun line.
So that's on you. I'm I'm trying to look at it through the eyes of a vet here. So now you're playing with a player who has no NHL, very little to none NHL experience. And now it's kind of you're mentoring him like on the ice as the game is going on here. Like you're trying to guide him through. Like that has to be tough, I'd imagine, though.
Well, I
Especially
mean,
like you don't have that chemistry just yet, because obviously chemistry builds up over time with young players.
yeah, yeah, and you want to read off him. If I'm a center,
Mm.
I understand that if anything goes south, it's probably on me, even if it's not my fault. That's the way I approached it.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to make sure that you're defending. Okay, we go from there. Now what? You go zone to zone. You get it in. This is what makes our line successful in the past. This is what we want you to do. This is where we need you to go. And it's pretty basic stuff. And the systems are, similar within the organization, if not the exact same within the organization from the NHL, the American League. And you just say, this is what we've done here. And you double check with the player. This is how you guys forecheck, or this is how you guys penalty kill, or whatever you're doing. You go over it. Yeah, that's how we do it. Okay. So you don't have to talk about that. You get that stuff out of the way. It's probably 2 minutes. And then you tell your teammate that just got called up, hey, you've played thousands of these in your life. So go play a hockey game.
Yeah, it's just another one.
Don't worry about anything else. Enjoy it. And I'll take care of you on the backside. And don't be afraid to make a mistake. I'll cover you. That was the way I approached it. That was the way it was approached to me when I got called up. Although I came in the first TV timeout because my driver got lost. So I didn't have time to get worried.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
God.
That's what Laviolette was saying about when Edstrom, because Edstrom was such a last minute decision that he didn't even get his rookie lap. And Laviolette
I didn't get a warm up. I missed the anthem.
Yeah, that's really funny, Brian. I didn't know that. But yeah, Laviolette was saying
goal and an assist.
Did you really?
sometimes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Shoot.
Oh yeah. Come on.
Started hot.
Please.
Cooled off considerably after that.
Listen, you got to start somewhere.
Man.
But it's true, when you have so much time to think about it, I imagine that it's just detrimental, but you just get thrown in there feet first. That's just go ahead.
I had chicken McNuggets as my pregame meal.
Breakfast or pregame meal, a champion right there.
Seriously, that really is. That just made me like you so much more, Brian.
That's
honestly.
I was like, I'm starving. I got to get something.
But wait, are you
little McNuggies?
Honey mustard or buffalo sauce, or just plain?
I'm gonna need the full order.
What were you dipping the nuggets into? We got to know this now.
Dipping them in my mouth, buddy.
We're going dry guy here.
Honestly, I'm not a sauce gal either.
Really? Oh, come on.
Yeah, they're good as is.
They are good as is. I'm not going to deny that.
They're perfect
Sprite,
as is.
Couple fries.
Little Sprite. That really is a pregame
Brian,
meal of champions.
Did you get the kids meal? I mean, you can tell us if you got a kids meal with a toy too. It's fine. Don't worry.
No, 10-piece, bud.
10-piece.
No, that's a man's meal.
No, man's meal.
Need a 10 meal.
245 pounds, bro. I gotta get the food in.
At least you didn't opt for the 20-piece. So you were
6 nuggets. Not gonna
I wanted to, but I was so nervous I was gonna puke it all up.
Oh God.
Guy drives like an animal.
Well, listen, someone else who might be nervous tonight, and we're talking about Brennan Othmann, but there's another big time player who's going to be stepping on the Garden Ice for the first time tonight, and that's Connor Bedard. 18 years old. He's pretty much lived up to the hype. At least I think he's lived up to the hype that we've heard about in the offseason. 37 games, 15 goals, 18 assists. It feels like he's always on ESPN, top 10 plays, making it
highlight
ridiculous.
reels.
He's been nuts. And this is where, when I saw the Othman news yesterday, I was like, does Bedard playing there kind of take a little bit of the spotlight off of Othman, where it's like, the mainstream media, everybody's going to be watching Connor, but Ranger fans, you're playing a home game. This is where it's kind of like, if they played it on the road, it probably wouldn't be as big of a deal. But every time Othman touches the puck tonight, they're going to be watching him and try and keep an eye. But seeing what Connor's done this year, it's going to present a challenge for the Rangers, I'd imagine, a little bit, right?
He's a weapon. He's an offensive threat, and he could do it on his own. He can make it play. And so you don't want to be exposed, even if you're winning the game. Like, you don't want to be on the ice. You don't want to be on the highlights. And so that's why what he's doing and how he's progressed with his goal scoring, especially, is impressive. He's doing it in different ways. For what he's understood and learned and matured on ways to be creative and productive at a young age is impressive. Really, really impressive to me. But having said that, with Othman, like, he doesn't care. He thinks everyone's watching him. That's the mentality I had. You can't screw up. Your eyes are on you. You want to make a good impression. He's not worried about Connor Bedard.
He's
And
thinking about Rangers brass is who he's thinking
yeah,
about.
absolutely. And his parents, his family, everybody that helped him get there, he wants to do well for them. So it's cool that he gets to play against Bedard in his first game because hopefully Bedard goes on and has a Hall of Fame career, and that would be a great story. But hopefully he goes on and has a great career as well. That was my first game, and this is what happened. Good, bad, or ugly.
I want a rookie duel tonight. Give me Bedard goal, give me Othman goal. It would just be the most beautiful story to ever write. The most beautiful game story.
It could be one of those long-term stories where it's like, you look back 10, 15 years from now and Brennan Othmann is, one of the Ranger greats, and Connor Bedard is on his way to Hockey Hall of Fame. And
well, that's the thing.
I think they got to be in the same division for that to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
I also feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't seen a rookie consistently make the highlight reels the way that Bedard has in, I think, ever since I started watching hockey. I mean,
what?
Wait. What?
What do you mean?
I haven't seen.
You didn't watch Connor?
No, I'm saying I haven't. I'm saying no. I did, but I'm saying I
broke his shoulder. I guess so that was cut short. But he was going 300 miles an hour. That's why you broke his collarbone. He fell.
Oh yeah, that's your reasoning.
I was like, this guy's too fast. But that guy was electric too. But this guy is. You're right. I mean,
yeah. Since McDavid. I mean, I wasn't watching as religiously when McDavid was a rookie, so that's why. But yeah, I just feel like Bedard has real what a skill it is to live up to the hype. That I feel like that just rarely ever happens. Rarely ever happens, and he truly has. So I think it's going to be electric at the Garden tonight just to have that guy on the ice in general. But yeah, I don't think it takes away from either of them. I don't really think it's that much of a prominent storyline.
Did I just really age myself? Am I
No, it's me.
It's me. Hockey nerd where I'm like,
no, it's me.
I'm thinking of all these names, and then thank God I only said Connor because I was thinking a lot of others, and then I'm like, well, I was kind of young when they broke in.
Well, yeah, it's a me thing, not you.
The only other person who I've kind of compared it to in my mind would be Crosby. And the attention that Sidney got, because I specifically remember the buildup that Sidney got when he was coming to the league, and it's like, this is going to be the next guy. And we've seen his career and what it's developed into, and he has become the guy. So it's kind of, I'm always skeptical whenever you see prospects, and you're always wondering if they do fully develop into the big time player. And obviously Connor's only 37 games in, but it's exciting to see because he'll be the face of the league probably for the next 10 to 15 years, especially playing in a big market like Chicago. It's not like he's playing, in Canada. I think the fact that if you have a player playing in Canada who's a face of the league, it's tough to market in America at least. Whereas if you have a guy in Chicago, big market, and they've won recently enough that, he's the guy. But it'll be exciting to see. It's always fun to see young kids, young phenoms play at the Garden.
Real quick. He still has the most watched game. It was that first game against Sid. And another, the geography of it matters too. Edmonton is in Alberta, and Colorado's obviously in that Rocky Mountain region as well. You see McKinnon play. If anyone gets a chance to watch this guy play, he looks different. To the casual fan, you're going to watch these guys play. They look different. But Bedard does too at 18 years old. I think that's probably what Mollie was saying. The hype, plus this is his first year. Plenty of guys had that first year. Stamkos, had a so-so first year and then took off after that. But he was playing down in Florida. Right. There was a lot of hype around him. There was a lot of hype around Tavares. They were good. They were really good. Great players. Stammer's a Hall of Famer for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
But this is everyone tuned in game one, opening night.
And then 18. A true, authentic first round, fresh out of, it's just, it's crazy.
Fresh out of prom.
Actually, fresh out of prom. Fresh out of prom.
God almighty. It's crazy because we're talking about a kid fresh out of prom. We're talking about Brennan Othmann, who's not yet 21, who's going to get his first legal drink later tonight.
Also something that we were talking about before we started recording, when you think about it, this is an 18-year-old in the most tremendous spotlight
Yeah.
that anybody could ever imagine, and he's still able to deliver on a nightly basis.
Yep.
That's also a really
Crushing it.
impressive layer to me too. Like I feel like there's been a bit of discourse about how much attention he's gotten and how much media attention. It does feel like the Chicago media people talk to him every day.
Yep.
It does feel like that,
100%.
which, as someone that's in the locker room, I'm conscientious of who I'm talking to every day, just to spread the wealth a little bit and not really, pound one guy all the time. But it feels like Bedard talks every day, and that's a lot. That's a lot on the psyche, and for him to be able to, put that on the back burner and still go out every night and make these highlight reel plays is pretty impressive for an 18-year-old.
As soon as he walks out his door, he's on. And that's something that I'm sure someone's told him.
Mm-hmm.
That's something Bobby Orr used to say. As soon as I walk out the door, I have to be on.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's got eyes on you, especially now with everyone's phones out. And I'm so impressed by, if he doesn't score another goal this year, I'm impressed with how the kid's handle himself.
Right.
He's been good, and I'll never forget, before the season started, he was on the Pat McAfee show, which anyone who watches Pat McAfee or doesn't watch Pat McAfee, it's mainly football, mainly college stuff.
It's
Very
hilarious.
rarely, that's all it is. And he introduced a segment called "Hockey is Awesome," and it's a fun segment to watch. He kind of pushes the game of hockey a little bit, but the fact that he had Connor Bedard on in his car as he's being driven by his father. It's just he looks like a good kid, and I'm probably going to regret saying this later down the line, especially if he becomes a Ranger killer. But he looks like a good kid, and as someone who's probably going to be a face of the league or one of the faces of the league, it's important to have someone who can handle that. And it seems like he's being groomed at an early age to be able to handle that. So we'll see how he handles the big stage of the Garden tonight. Well, we still have plenty to discuss. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the Hurricanes' loss, unfortunately. We're going to talk about Adam Fox, trade deadline stuff. And we're going to hear from Brian about his New Year's Day Winter Classic experience. All that and more coming up next. Back on the Up in the Blue Seats podcast. And as we're recording this, it is Thursday. We have some notes from skate that's happening today. And Mollie's going to break everything down, including an update from someone we haven't seen since November. What's up, Mollie?
Yeah, word is Kaapo Kakko is on the ice with the Rangers for the first time. He's been skating by himself, but this is the first time that we've seen him on the ice with the team. He's wearing a red non-contact jersey. Big news. Obviously, that injury on November 27th against Buffalo looks season-ending. That's how bad it was. He got his legs swept out from underneath him in a collision along the boards and just bent his knee in such an awkward, very visibly uncomfortable way. And it looked season ending, but the initial prognosis was not season ending. He avoided the worst apparently, and he's back with the Rangers already. And that's kind of crazy. I didn't expect it to be as quickly as it was, but big positive news for Kaapo Kakko. And again, it makes it a little bit more scary that Filipino, who was injured almost a month prior, is still not with the Rangers. So I think that just kind of tells you all you need to know about that situation. But yeah, Kaapo Kakko on pace to return to the lineup, I guess, relatively soon. So
another step.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's good.
So yeah, he's
did look ugly. I was there at that game.
Yeah.
That was gross.
Ugh,
Contorted.
really bad. Not good.
But,
not good at all.
Athletes these days and how they can recover, how they prepare, those injuries are less severe. So that's good news. Really good news. I was really, really high on him this year, and pucks weren't going in the net, but I liked what he was doing throughout the course of a game. That's bigger than, if he can come back and play well. I don't even care about goals. He's a hard guy to play against.
I was gonna say,
takes up space,
defensively,
he's big and strong.
Yeah,
makes their team better for sure.
That's what the Rangers definitely need, that for sure. And he's been skating by himself, right? He's been skating alone. Oh, Mollie, what
Brian's visceral reaction.
You
don't seem to be a fan of skating alone, do you, Brian?
No, you want to go out and have fun with your buddies and snapping around. Listen, I've done it more than anyone. Maybe not more than anyone, because I was pretty lucky to not be injured that much, but I did it when I was I first signed with the Devils. They wouldn't let me on the ice with anyone because I got sick, and then they said my spleen was big. I was losing it, screaming at trainers. Like, just let me wear a different jersey. They wouldn't let me on the ice. So I skate by myself for like 30 minutes, then 45, then an hour, and I just built it up. And you have no idea how slow time goes by when you're bag skating by yourself, an hour and 40 minutes trying to step into a season where you didn't have training camp. Then I didn't play for a year. For up until like March, I skated by myself at a rink in Foxborough, which I love, but it's not like a National League rink.
Yeah.
Training, working out by myself. Everyone left, went to camp, playing games and watching the games. Couldn't get a contract, skating by myself. It's no fun. It's no fun, but it's better than, I don't know, a lot of other things.
It's better than not being on the ice.
Yeah, not being on the ice at all.
I mean, that's the alternate, I guess, but no, it doesn't sound like an enjoyable time.
It's rubbish.
Well, it's definitely encouraging that Kakko's back. We got anything? What about Brennan Othmann? We just talked about him. Do we have any idea what lines he's playing with? He's practicing. What's he doing?
Yeah, so Tyler Pitlick is out week to week. We mentioned that earlier in the show. So in his absence, the bottom six is looking like Cooley on the left, Gaudreau in the middle, VC on the right, and then Othman on the left, Bonino in the middle, Brodzinski on the right. So
I really don't. I mean, that's fine. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
is it? It's your evaluation?
Wherever. But that's good. He's in a spot where he's got some vets that'll help him out. Got some speed on the right. Really, really, really smart, responsible centerman. So that's good for him. I'm excited to see it.
You like to see a head coach, know where to put a young player like that and how to slide him in, and hopefully it works out well. We'll see. We'll have to watch the game tonight, and I'm sure we'll discuss it on next week's episode.
Bonino is such a take you under his wing kind of guy, so
yeah,
yes,
think that'll be good.
He has a sous chef now. There you go. That's exactly it. All right. So thanks for the notes there. We'll definitely keep an eye on anything else. If anything else pops up, we'll hop back in. Want to quickly get into the Hurricanes game. Obviously not an ideal way to open up the 2024 year, taking a 6-1 loss. And of course, just like I preached on the show in the past, Brady Shea, former Ranger, 3 assists. Jack Jury, nephew of Chris Jury, has a goal. It's just, former Rangers and Ranger connections just doing the Rangers in. What can I tell you? But it's going back again. They're consistently playing down early. That game that started off, I believe it was Lafreniere who took a penalty, and
30 seconds in.
I'm like, this is how you want to start off 2024. Yeah. And they lost to the Panthers, similar fashion as well, too. They went down early as well. They're playing with fire here, Brian. Is this something that they can at least try to contain, these kind of like early mundane, going down and having to dig out of these deficits like that?
Yeah, well, you have to start on time, but they're the team to beat, right? Or they were. Now Boston might have got ahead of them
by a point. Yeah.
But it's not an easy thing to do it start to finish. You saw the Bruins do it. You saw kind of Florida did it a little bit the year before, but it's really not that easy. So you have to have certain challenges that come with being the top dog, and they've had injuries. Obviously they've had other challenges. They lost, Adam Fox for a while, but they kind of plugged along. They lost sort of Igor's confidence for a little while, and Johnny Quick was amazing. So now they're not really starting on time. You go to Carolina, who was trying to figure it out. They play a certain way to a T. They weren't getting saves. They weren't where they are in the, they're almost desperate at this point. Carolina is. So you try to tell yourself and understand that, but when your motivation is sort of, we're already up here, we want to play well, yeah, or your motivation is like, we better get going or we're out of the playoffs. It's a different intensity level. So that's just my opinion on. I think they'll figure it out. They just need to match everyone else's intensity level.
I also feel like the Canes were just caning. Like they were peak Canes.
They have to, though,
that night. Like that was the Canes at their best, I feel. And the Rangers were far from their best. So that's just the natural I guess, results that were going to come out of that. But my biggest takeaway from that game is, at least if you look at the body of work for the Rangers this season, when they lose bad.
They do. It's true.
They don't just lose. They get trounced sometimes. Yeah. Like the scoreboard ends up, and I know that a lot of the
empty
losses
netters
that they've had that have been empty net abated, as Larry likes to write in his stories. And that's, I acknowledge that, but it's still, a goal that counts against and, counts towards all the averages and everything. So it still counts. So, I mean, they've had, I wrote about it in that game story, but they've had, I think, of their 10 regulation losses, 7 have been by 3 or more. And I think 5 have been by 4+. That's a lot. It just because how little they've lost. That's why it's a little glaring.
They didn't have it.
Yeah. No.
But then they find ways to win when they do have it.
Yes. It's an okay balance. It's totally fine, especially with where they're at in the season. But I definitely think that that's been a bit of a trend for them. When they lose pretty badly, and it unravels very, very quickly for them, which I think is something that they need to also figure out, is how to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
Really badly.
Have we seen like a outshot 50-17, 6-1 drumming?
No, that's the thing.
Yeah.
They have like in some of those games they've outshot.
I think they outshot Carolina, to be honest with you. Now, I don't put a lot of stock into them out shooting Carolina, but it was, it was close going into the third.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they're getting absolutely railroaded here. It's not, they're going to lose some games, but that was also like Chatfield's goal. He just kind of like ripped it. It's in the net. Those things happen. You want to, you still have opportunities. If you have just nothing and you're getting worked and you haven't played like 4 and 6 nights or something, then it's like, what just happened and what's going on? But it's, there's games where you're not connecting, power plays off a little.
Yeah, I think special teams was big.
Yeah, that's those
in that game, at least. They've been so good on special teams, and when it's not there, their 5-on-5 issues get exposed, obviously.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's most teams' lifeblood. That separates. You be good enough, be stingy enough, get a few goals 5-on-5 with your top 6, and then if your special teams are great, you're going to get a lot of points. Now, you want to improve 5-on-5 because I think power plays, I don't think you can rely on a power play. Like, you don't want to lean on that as your, ace up your sleeve in the playoffs. Like, you want it to be working, and it's important to have a good power play and turn into goals in the playoffs, but sometimes it doesn't. You're playing against good teams, good penalty kills, and good goalies. You need to play well 5-on-5.
I think that's where the Rangers are at right now, though. I think they are. I think their power play, and this is not a new thing. The power play has been a driving force of their offense for a few seasons now, because it's one of the best power play units in the league. But I'm in agreement, especially in the playoffs. Power play can't be your X factor, which I feel like it is for the Rangers.
It's true, and as Larry noted, and Larry's not here with us today on the podcast, but we have a Larry nugget where the Rangers are now 5-5 even strength. Their differential is now -1. So,
okay, can I ask a question? Does that include the empty net goals against?
It does not. No,
for sure not.
I'm fairly certain from what Larry stated. I'll pull up the article.
Yeah, read the graph. I'm sure it says.
Because I mean that's an issue right there, and like you said, you cannot rely on strictly power play. You can't. It's just it's not it's not gonna work. From Larry, since 19
that's even crazy. Since
well, yeah, that's not usually how you want to start.
The Seattle Metropolitans won the Stanley Cup. Only one team.
Yeah, no. They are looking at doesn't include the empty nets. So, which is not great. Like that's not,
No, yeah.
Especially
I'm
what is it?
Defend them.
Six empty nets. I think they've given up. I think he has it written there somewhere.
Yeah,
I think that's what it says. 6 empty netters, which is also a lot.
Which is right. But it's interesting because, again, as Larry noted, since the league expanded to 12 teams in the 60s, only one team has ever won the cup with having a negative 5-on-5 goal differential, which
That was the Kings.
the 2011-2012 Kings. Yeah,
One team.
good pull.
One team since Bob Dylan.
It's Bob Dylan. That's a way to look at it. Yeah. So it's something
And
that
that Kings team was unique because they were awful, or not awful, but they were in like 10th place. They fired their coach, and then they decided they were good, and they railroaded.
They decided they were good.
Oh, yeah.
They lost like 4 games that playoff.
Yeah,
They were insane.
Had to change some things up. But I do think that also speaks to a point where I kind of wanted to guide next into is the trade deadline and what Chris Drury needs to do, because trade deadline is March 8th. And we're 2 months away essentially. And I know we've kind of spoken about it a few times on the podcast as is, but like it's coming up, and there's a few things that the Rangers need to address. And getting guys back healthy first is important, like we heard about the Kakko update. But there's certain guys that haven't really been playing up to their potential, like Adam Fox. He's returned. He hasn't looked great. Where do you want Chris Drury to go here? He's strapped by the cap, obviously. But where do you want him to go, and where do you think he can go in the next couple months here to kind of improve this team and take them into that next level for a cup run?
I feel like a lot of it depends on Hedel. A lot of it depends on his status, where he's at, because that's also going to determine how much money the Rangers have at the trade deadline. So if he's still an LTIR, and at that point, there's no signs of him coming back until the playoffs, then the Rangers can go ahead and partake in his cap hit. And then they'll probably want to get another center, I feel, at that point, for the bottom 6, probably. So that's probably the number one thing that I'm waiting to see how it unfolds. And that'll probably determine a lot of how Drury moves through the market. Because a center would be the top priority if it is clear that Filipino wouldn't be available until the playoffs, or maybe not at all, which is an unfortunate possibility that the Rangers are facing. And then otherwise, just like the past 2 to 3 trade deadlines, the right wing is the other focus. That is something that the Rangers have been doing every single year for the last few years, is they've needed help on the right side, which also circles back.
Tarasenko's only on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, but we talked about this though, and Larry had a really great point. Are they going to want to run it back? Do they want to run it back? Of course he was good. It's Vladimir Tarasenko. And
he's a refrigerator.
He's unbelievable. He's a great player. He's
a barrel.
He's a shooter. They need
so
that.
Thick.
But do they want to run it back?
Why wouldn't you?
Because look what happened.
What do you mean? He was great.
No, he was great, but the Rangers did not.
You think it's like bad juju?
Round. No, I don't know if I'm not saying bad juju.
All the other guys that are on the team were on that team.
I'm not saying bad juju. I'm just saying, do they really want to run it back again? With a guy?
I agree. Well, yeah, I would. If they retain salary and you had that money, maybe a center. If you can find a center that's capable of driving some offense to replace Hedel, that's a great point. Obviously, that's a hole, but I mean, you found him in Vincent Trocheck, and now you need. So the priority's down. The price should be down,
right? Because
of how well Troch has played. I mean, I don't know if Philly would ever do it, but that Sealer would be a great ad. Nick Sealer, just a punisher. Like I just look at who won and how they won,
and they need that.
In the cup finals, and that is that is what you need. Vegas had redwood trees. They had 4 lines that played north, south, in your face, hard nose. And I know how the Rangers are built. Their top 6 aren't necessarily like that, but
at all.
Defensively, if you can't get near the net, it just messes with your mind. Because I'd watch these Vegas games, and I know they're human, but they look superhuman. Nothing was getting near. And then when it did, Hill was amazing. But you have the ingredients. You add, you'd see I don't doubt Philly would trade him to New York, but it's like, or if they'll trade him at all. I'm not trying to throw rumors out there, but that's the type of guy. Like I'd always loved Luke Shen. It's
Mhm.
just so brutal to play against. You try
Yeah.
to get near the net. It's really a priority, I think, too. Otherwise, other than yeah, maybe another guy down the middle. But it's center defense, and then you go for your wingers. Priorities are priorities.
Yeah, they definitely need some tenacity, some more bite. I'm with you on that.
I think they have.
They just need
yeah,
more.
Yeah, but I think when the playoffs will bring that out of them too.
Yeah.
But again, so like Florida, they played that way all year, and that's what they did and got them through the playoffs. And eventually, they all had to go get surgery because they were just mangled.
I was about to say they were falling apart by the end.
So big players that are not trying to bring it out of guys that it's not comes natural to. Really, guys that do it naturally, I think they'll hold up better because they've done it their whole lives.
Yeah.
Interesting to see. We have time. Rangers need to obviously make some moves here. Before we get out of here and close the show out, Brian, you spent New Year's Day in Seattle. And last episode, we spoke about the 2012 Winter Classic. I'm curious how the 2024 edition treated you. What was that experience like? It looked beautiful on TV. That stadium looks awesome. I can only imagine being there.
It was really cool. I was so thankful to the NHL Network for letting me tag along and join in. And I'll say this, it's not easy when you're trying to be a dad and get through the holidays and 4 a.m. wake up for a 6 a.m. flight out there right to the field to do some work. Do you guys see me with the trident? They did a commercial and I had a
dude, I was going to ask you about that actually too. The drone camera, that was an awesome shot,
sick.
man.
So that dude driving around the drone, whoever did that was like, it was sick. But we're watching and I'm walking around like, all right, what am I supposed to do? He's like, we have a couple interviews. It's like, I'd like to say hi to Maddie Beniers. It's from my hometown. And this thing's just flying around. And like 2 or 3 times, I'm like, who's flying this thing? It almost clocked me in the head. And like it happened on the ice too. I guess one of the D-men was in a drill and he like ducked, like, what the hell was that? That was a bird. Anyways, they hand me this trident, which is like 85 pounds.
I was like a legit trident. Damn.
Well, yeah, that's what they hand out. Like, hey, Hartsy baseball guy, right? That's what they hand out when they hit dingers
right.
in Seattle.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm holding this thing, and they're like, here's your line. And I'm like, okay.
Here's your line.
I have a line. They're like, yeah. It's like the stadium's amazing. The crowd's going to be electric. I was like, oh, boom, done. And I had to wait like a half hour. He's like, less than 5 minutes. 30 minutes go by. And he's like, less than 2. I'm like, so what does that mean? Like 25 minutes? And the guy's like, I'm sorry, it's not my fault. I'm like, I'm just kidding around here.
Yeah, just messing.
So at that point, I'm like, I'm just leaning into this. So I screamed it. And no one's really paying attention because like the drone's making noise. He's like, all right, you got to do that again. Exactly the same without the drone noise. So now it's like quiet all around me. I scream it again. All the fans are like looking back at me like, what the hell's the matter with this guy? Holding a trident.
Yeah, with the trident, no less.
But then the next day we got up early and the pregame was great. We had a lot of fun. By the time postgame rolled around, I couldn't talk. I was so tired.
Oh my God.
And then I think I gave my like marbles in my mouth, went over to Jameson because then I screwed up Jameson Coyle too. It was a long day. We're watching the game. We're just kind of sitting there freezing. Oh. And but whatever. Then I red-eyed home. And then I got home at 8:30. Listen, real quick, if you're a flight attendant and you're working a red eye, please don't talk for 4 straight hours about your dogs. Because everyone's trying to sleep and no one gives a about your dogs.
Tell me how you really feel, Brian.
I couldn't.
That was just a little PSA from Brian Boyle.
Yeah, just use some common sense.
Have some common courtesy.
Brutal.
I probably would have said something.
Especially a New Year's Day or day afternoon. Like people are flying. It's a red eye. You don't want to deal with that.
It was brutal. But the day itself was awesome. And the game, I mean, give credit to Seattle. See, that's what I'm talking about with Carolina and the Rangers, like Seattle and Vegas, same thing. Mm-hmm. They were like, they came out like a house on fire.
Yeah.
They were at home in front of their people, and it's always cool. I don't care if people get sick of it. It's always awesome. If you go, it's the best.
I mean, I don't know how people do get sick of it, especially the NHL does a great job of changing it up. It's not like the Super Bowl where it's usually in the same 3, 4 stadiums, Miami, California. I love seeing, it in different environments, and especially for two younger teams, younger league-wide teams in terms of when they've came in. For the Kraken fans to come out like that, pack that stadium, it looked awesome. Mollie, I know you're pumped for the stadium series, as am I.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting, and we'll
Have they
hear.
announced jerseys yet for those?
They haven't. No,
They
No.
got to get those out there so people can buy them.
Mhm.
You're right. Yeah, because is that this month or is that next month? That's February, right? I believe
February.
February. Yeah. Those should be dropping soon, which I'm sure we'll have some hot takes on those.
My kid's
sweaters.
gonna want one. I know that.
Well, we'll see what they look like. I'm sure we'll break them all down for you. All right, we're out of time here. We're going to close the show out next. We got our 3 stars, and we'll talk to you then. And that'll put a bow on episode 139 of Up in the Blue Seats, our Rangers podcast from the New York Post. Before we close it out, we got to dish out some stars. Last week we went Mollie first, so Brian, you get to go first this week. Who's your number 1 star?
Oh, pressure.
Change up, yeah.
Mika. I'm gonna give it to Mika. 10-game heater. Thank you, Mollie, for that. I didn't know how many games it was. 10-game heater. It's now over, but after not a great start, he hung in. He's done a lot of things right. Highlighted him last week as well. We talked about him. He's their do everything guy.
Yeah.
There would be a big hole without him, and I just think he's gonna fire it back up. I love what he's done. I love what he's said. Easy guy to root for. Give it to Mika.
I like it. Mollie, number 2 star.
I know the Carolina game wasn't the best for him or the team in general, but I'm going to go with Igor Shesterkin. Even though he lost the Carolina game, he was 5-0 before that after an 0-3 stretch. So got to tip your cap to Igor for getting back on track there.
Yeah, it's just a little bump on the road, but it's fine. He'll be good. My number 3 star is going to go to the Clydesdale. Chris Kreider, 166th goal at MSG, which includes the season and playoffs, which surpasses the great Rod Gilbert for most all-time in MSG. Anytime you're on a list with Rod Gilbert, you're doing something right. And as I've often said, I believe you will see the number 20 hanging in the rafters of MSG. Soon. No, I mean, hopefully not soon, but you'll see it in the future.
Someday.
Yeah, in May. We'll do a Chris Kreider tribute. So
You
congrats
better
to him.
invite me to that.
I think you'll be invited.
Nice.
Would you be like the guy on the ice where they're giving out speeches and stuff like that, or would you just kind of sit there and like in the?
I think you also, there's like criteria involved where I think you'd have to be like a really good player to be able to go on the ice.
You don't feel like you fit that bill?
I don't know. I was a really player. I played.
You were a really player.
Yeah. Like I didn't miss a lot of games.
I also feel like it
Ryan, I think you're selling yourself short.
It depends.
I was also there.
I was also on the ice.
I see those kind of ceremonies. I always think it's like whoever gets the big applause. Like you're not going to introduce someone who played 30 minutes with a guy, but like you played a bit.
Yeah, and
you get a huge applause from the Garden crowd. I feel like
definitely.
Thanks, guys. I needed that today.
There you go.
I was to say that was a nice little hype talk. You got your hype man over here.
Feeling ready. Thank you.
After a rough flight home from Seattle, we have to pump a little bit.
Well, then I get home and just constantly just taking it from all angles. Where you been? I missed Cal's birthday. I missed my 2-year-old's birthday.
Aww. I hope
he
you
got an Elmo
made it up
balloon.
for him.
Yeah.
An Elmo balloon.
Oh.
And he lost it. It went all the way up to the top of. So I took a hockey tape on a stick, and flipped it over, and I stuck it, brought it down. It was like he kept singing "Happy Birthday" after I gave it to him. Thought it was his birthday again. 2 days later.
Dad of the year. Dad of
Perfect.
the year.
Doesn't take a lot to make it up to a 2-year-old for missing his birthday.
Nice. Look at us, bud. We're back.
Who'd have thunk it? Who'd have thunk it? Not me. All right. Well, great job, guys. As always, we're going to thank Jake Brown for helping produce the show. You can catch up on all episodes of the podcast by subscribing to Up in the Blue Seats on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your pods. If you're watching right now on the New York Post Sports YouTube page, give us a thumbs up, like below, comment below, yada, yada, yada. We went through resolutions last year. How about, what's your what do you want to see out of Brennan Othmann? What are you expecting?
Hmm.
How long do you think he's going to be here for? Do you think he's going to score tonight? That'd be exciting. We'll see. Let us know your comments below. You can also follow us on Twitter or X at Mollie
No,
Walker. That's 2 E's,
Twitter.
2 R's. Bry Browse 22 and myself, Andrew Harts, without the E. For Brian Boyle, Mollie Walker, I'm Andrew Harts. Thanks for listening. As always, we will talk to you next week. Happy Brennan Othmann Day. Later.